Oh, andyan pala kayo. Halina't samahan nyo kami ni Christopher na tuklasan tungkol sa pop art.
Oo, tama si Tristan. Marami tayong matututunan tungkol sa ating topic ngayong video na ito.
Bago ang lahat, magpapakilala muna kami. Ako si Tristan James Balazon.
At ako nga pala, si Christopher Olanday. Huwag na magpatumpik-tumpik pa. Tara, simulan na natin ang ating pag-aaral. Pop art originated in Nia Dada and other movements that question what exactly is considered art, and was developed in the United Kingdom in the 1950s. During a period of post-war socio-political upheaval, when artists started to celebrate everyday objects and elevate them to the status of high art. Other American artists quickly followed suit, becoming the movement's most well-known defenders of the rejection of conventional historical artistic subject matter in favor of pervasive infiltration of mass-produced goods and images that dominated the visual sphere. Key ideas and accomplishments. The pop art movement intended to blur the lines between high and low art, cultured by painting or sculpting, mass culture products, and media icons. It may be claimed that abstract expressionists sought sorrow in the soul, but pop artists sought trauma in the mediated worlds of advertising, cartoons, and popular images in general. Even though pop art spans a diverse range of art with vastly different attitudes and postures, much of it is emotionally disconnected. Pop artists appear to have embraced the post-war industry and media boom. Before becoming a pop artist, Andy Warhol was a highly successful magazine illustrator and graphic designer. Edres Kua was also a graphic designer, and James Rosenquist began his career as a billboard painter. For the history of pop art, here is Tristan to give you some insights.
History of pop art. Pop art is an art movement that emerged in the mid-1950s in Britain and in the late 1950s in the United States. Pop art presented a challenge to traditions of fine art by including imagery from popular cultures such as advertising and news. In pop art, the material is sometimes visually removed from its own context, isolated, and/or combined with unrelated material. The concept of pop art refers not as much to the art itself as to the attitudes that led to it. Pop art characterized a sense of optimism during the post-war consumer boom of the 1950s and 1960s. It coincided with the globalization of pop music and youth culture, personified by Elvis and the Beatles. Pop art was brash, young, fun, and hostile to the artistic establishment. It is widely interpreted as a reaction to then dominant ideas of abstract expressionism and an expansion of them, and due to its utilization of found objects and images, it is similar to Dada. Pop art aimed to employ images of famous as opposed to elitist culture in art, emphasizing any given culture's banal or kitschy elements, most often through irony. Advertising, product labeling, and logos figure prominently in the imagery chosen by pop artists, like in the Campbell soup cans by Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol is one of the best-known artists associated with pop art. His images of Mick Jagger, Marilyn Monroe, and Campbell soup cans, to name but a few, have become household images reprinted onto t-shirts, posters, and mugs and recognized by people across globe. Perhaps it is surprising that a pop art movement came out of London before it burst into the art scene in America convincingly. After all, it is the American artist Andy Warhol who has become synonymous with the movement known as pop art. Around 1955, two remarkable artists emerged who would lay the foundations of a bridge between abstract expressionism and pop art. They were Jasper Johns and Robert Rauschenberg, the forerunners of American pop art. And now, Christopher will introduce to you the famous artists of pop art.
Famous artist Andy Warhol, born on August 6, 1928 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. Died on February 22, 1987 in New York Presbyterian Hospital, New York, USA. Many saw his success as a realization of one of pop art's goal, to bring popular styles and subjects into fine arts elite salon, shipping labels, Coca-Cola bottles, coffee can labels, Brillo soap box labels, matchbook covers, and automobiles were all created by him. His greatest achievement was lifting his personality to the status of a public icon, a new level of fame, and a celebrity for a fine artist. Famous works: Campbell's Soup Can, 1962, and Brillo Box, 1964. Roy Fox Lichtenstein, born on October 27, 1923, Manhattan, New York, USA. Died on September 29, 1997, NYU Langone Health, New York, USA. Roy Lichtenstein, an American pop artist, rose to prominence in the art world with his comic book-inspired paintings and vibrant reproduction of cartoon characters. He became one of the most well-known pop artists of all time by using imagery from popular culture to create new location and meaning in his painting. His work established the concept of pop art through parody. Famous works: Wham! 1963, Drowning Girl, 1963, and Masterpiece, 1962. James Rosenquist, born on November 29, 1933, in Grand Forks, North Dakota, USA. Died on March 31, 2017, in New York, USA. By 1960, Rosenquist had retired from commercial advertising and moved to a tiny studio in Lower Manhattan. Rosenquist's paintings were frequently questioned the nature of advertising, relying on his experience as a sign painter. Famous works: F1111 or F111, 1965, House of Fire, Marilyn Monroe, I, 1962. Additional famous artists: Claes Oldenburg and his famous works, Eduardo Paolozzi and his famous works. And for the later developments of pop art, here is Tristan to share his knowledge about it.
Later developments of pop art. Pop art would continue to influence artists in later decades, with artists like Warhol maintaining a larger-than-life presence within the New York art world into the 1980s. Pop art fell out of favor during the 1970s as the art world shifted focus from the art objects to installations, performances, and other less tangible art forms. However, with the revival of painting at the end of the 1970s and in the early 1980s, the art object came back into favor once again, and popular culture provided subject matter that was easy for viewers to identify and understand. One of the leading figures of the neo-pop movement was Jeff Koons, whose appropriation of pop culture icons such as Michael Jackson and mass-produced objects like Hoover vacuum cleaners further pushed the boundaries of high art. In Japan, the work of Takashi Murakami has been cited as more recent example of neo-pop, due to his use of popular anime imagery in his super flat style and his successful partnering with fashion labels like Louis Vuitton. Such artists continue to break down the barrier between high and low art forms, while re-evaluating the role of art as a commodity in and of itself. And that's the end of discussion about pop art.
Woo! Grabe, parang sasabog na ako dun sa dinabi-daming impormasyon na ating natuklasan.
Tama ka dyan, maraming impormasyon ang ating napamahagi at maraming bagong aral ang ating tinalakay. O kayo ba, natuto ba kayo sa aming tinuro?
Kung meron kayo natututunan, paki-like ang aming video at i-share ito. Laging tatandaan, ang buhay ay weather lang.